Hey, good evening, Des Moines, Iowa. This is Lefty with Doc and Lefty coming to you live. Did I say live already? I don't think I did. Webcast1live.com, where we come in every Tuesday from 6 to 7. Man, you know, I don't usually do this. I feel it's kind of cheesy. It's kind of a radio podcast kind of trick, but the weather outside... Can you believe that last week we were up to our ankles in snow and slush, Doc? This is unbelievable.
Well, you know, it is. It's a lot better today. I'm finally glad I got the Hawaiian shirt back, my signature, clothing
look,
style.
Cargo shorts, the whole thing.
Oh, the whole thing.
You look ready to go.
Yeah, and I thought about riding my bike down here, but there's a lot of construction, so I had to bring the old red beast.
It's pretty tough, but we're joined today. This is 2 weeks in a row where we've got somebody from the... See, here's the thing about our part-time legislature here in Iowa is that they're more than willing to come and talk to you and be responsive when you ask them questions, but I guarantee this guy, because of where he's from, is ready to get out of town and get back to home base up in Northwest Iowa. We're here with our good friend Tom Shaw, who now remind me of your house district. I know you're from Lorenz.
House District 10.
House District 10. That is right. House District 10 from the Lorenz Marathon area. He's our second repeat guest, and so he gets official.
He's our second friend of the show.
Second friend of the show.
The first being our good friend, our mutually good friend,
yes,
Senator Brad Zahn, who loves both of us.
He does. He really does, and he's not ashamed to remind Iowa every Tuesday night.
Every Tuesday night.
but Representative Shaw, thanks for being here today. I know that it's got to be kind of... This is now, correct me if I'm wrong, this is your first term?
This is my second term.
Second term, that's right. Second term, that's right. I knew that. And so, but this is your... And so this is your 2 for 2 and going long, because I think last session you guys went long as well.
The very first year in 2011, we went all the way to June 30th.
That's right. That was the tough one. That was close. That session was the tough one.
But it could be Tom.
It
could be him.
I've been accused of that. I've been accused of that.
But see, there's no filibuster in the House, so maybe that's not really his bag. He's not. He's not doing it that way.
No, he's not.
So Tom, and we're a little bit more informal once you get a friend of the show status. I hope that's okay with you.
That's fine. That's fine.
Tom, we were talking before the show. Things are, I wouldn't say winding down, but they're kind of starting to coalesce. Is that a fair statement?
I think so.
So where are we at?
It all comes down to the budget bills, and we started out the session quite a ways apart from one another. In the House, we were aiming at 3% overall growth over last year's budget, and the Senate came out with an 11% growth in government, and so that's quite a gap to try to fill. But I think. Through it all, as we go through this, I think we'll be getting closer down to our 3%.
Now, it used to be the budget had to be forecast every year, and then Governor Branstad changed that to 2 years, I believe.
Right, he's on a 2-year budget.
That's right. Now, has that made the gap between the parties more difficult to bridge, or do you think that's provided leverage to kind of get this deal done? Because I remember in 2011, I didn't think you guys were ever going to get out. Because of the budget problem.
Yes.
Right. And is that a fair statement?
I agree. Yeah, last year was horrendous. The one thing I'm gonna berate my fellow Republicans over is I'm not quite sure how growing the government at 3% is something that you should be touting. I think in this period of time when everybody is when every government's looking for new tax revenues, Iowa should be leading the way about, well, listen, we're going to start reducing our spending, start getting rid of some things, like a lot of the administrators at DHS would be my personal recommendation, and start trying to figure out ways you can cut the budget bilaterally. But I don't ever see that kind of thing going on at the courthouse.
Well, I would agree with you. I don't like to tout any growth. I would like to see a zero gain, but that's not going to happen. There's not enough in the caucus with me to make that happen. The reason they went with 3% is I think they said over a 20-year average, the economy grows around 3.3% or something like that. So we're underneath the average growth. I do know that 11% is totally unsustainable. And as usual, there's a few budgeting tricks going on because the Senate, when they originally proposed their budget, said they were spending 94% of their what am I trying to say? The amount of money that they can spend and available revenue. I'm sorry, that's what
right.
I was looking for. And in a way, that's technically true, but we're supposed to budget off of the December Revenue Estimating Committee's estimate. So what they did for their budget is they were dipping into the savings that we've worked hard to save on behalf of the taxpayers. So they were dipping into the savings account, and that's how they came up with their 94%. Now, if you looked at it strictly on the December revenue estimate, they would be spending $1.05 for every dollar.
So one of the things that Governor Branstad has been criticized about in the last, I'd say in the last 2 months, is a lack of leadership in trying to get this session over and done. We talked about it a little bit last week with Brad. And what was it, last week before he went to China, Governor Branstad went to China. What would you tell the governor about this, leaving the state at a critical time when you need to get things together?
Well, I think the trade missions are very important. I have a different take on Iowa's economy than some. We're the breadbasket. We grow so much grain. We feed the world. I see Iowa as part of the peace process and maintaining peace throughout the world. China's a hungry nation. They got a growing population. They can't feed themselves. And to me, a hungry nation is a warring nation. And so I think it's part of the peace process to keep the trade going with them. And that's one of the best ways to avert any kind of hostilities with any foreign nation. So I just believe trade's that important.
Now I'm gonna agree with my friend Mr. Shaw here and kind of echo those sentiments. And I think because you heard a little bit about it last week, sort of like the faint criticism from Senator Zahn, not necessarily about the job the governor's done. I don't think that anybody, honestly, and it makes me sad to say this as a Democrat, but I think that if I don't know who's really popular. Some guy from if Don Draper, if John Hamm were to run for governor, he'd have his pants beat off in Iowa. That's just Governor Branstad is really
Wildly
presided
popular.
over very highly popular. A lot really good ratings right now, and it's after the debacle of the Culver administration, not to take anything unfairly away from the governor, I think that by contrast, if you're going to polish a turd, and I'm talking about a Democrat here. That's but not to say that Branstad's a turd. Anyway, so I think that those trade missions are fine. I think that those that doing that stuff is good for all the reasons that you stated. A couple of the things, particularly that I was critical of him for, was bringing out his health plan so late in the game.
All right. And then, what we'll do is we'll get right back to the healthcare plan the governor's brought up. I'm gonna do a brief 30-second commercial for our newest sponsor, Polk County GOP. They are now sponsoring our show. They have this wonderful dinner coming up May 27th. Rand Paul's going to be there, a bunch of luminaries, including the governor, and that's going to be a wonderful event. You can get a hold of them at iowagop.org, and Daryl Carney is a person that you want to talk to. We'll be back right after the break. Thanks for tuning in. You're listening to Doc and Lefty on webcast1live.com with our special second friend of the show, Representative Tom Shaw.
Petrosian Associates, how can I help you?
Petrosh and Associates will provide you with a friendly, caring, and confidential place to find help for mental health concerns. We are ready for your call. Our doctor, Dr. J. Patrick Petrosh, provides a full range of psychiatric services for children, adolescents, and adults in a forthright and informative manner while maintaining a casual, comfortable, and relaxed atmosphere.
Drug and alcohol addiction slowly steals a person's identity, tearing away pieces of their life little by little until one day it seems like the hope of a happy future is gone and there's no chance of getting it back. Here at St. Gregory Retreat Centers, we can assure you that there is hope. Our unique approach to recovery begins with the understanding that the dysfunction and damage caused by addiction can be overcome, not just dealt with. Don't let another day go by. Call St. Gregory today.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Hey, welcome back. This is Lefty with Doc and Lefty. Joining us today is our friend of the show, Representative Tom Shaw. So, Tom, we were talking a little bit about some of the critiques of Governor Branstad, and what I got to say, I mean, I think that he's played, from a Democratic perspective, he's played a lot of politics this session. But a couple of the critiques, one that I had was he proposed his healthcare solution, has actually rolled out his plan very, very late. And I think that's one of the things that's bogged down the legislature in getting out on time. The second thing, even though these trips are important, what made him leave now as opposed to he could have gone, say, in February? Or you know what I'm saying? Like it feels like, hey, he's starting to get some flack from some of these other things that are going on. Let's get out of town, kind of do what presidents have done in the past, take a foreign relations trip, kind of press some flesh in the places that like us. And China loves Iowa.
Yes,
we had their new premier here last year. They love Iowa. We do
Absolutely.
We do a good job for them. So I just wanted your thoughts on some of that. You think it's a fair criticism, unfair?
I don't know. I don't control the governor's schedule. I don't think it's fair to say he rolled out his health care plan too late. I know last fall, early in the winter, he's been talking. I know he personally went out to Washington, D.C. to talk to the Health and Human Services Secretary, Sebelius.
That was recently, though, I believe.
But he sent letters, been in communication. I know he sent one letter, was it last November, December, somewhere in there, with 50 questions. We're not getting answers out of Washington, for one thing. Obamacare and the Medicaid expansion is one part of that. Senator Baucus, a Democrat from, is it Wyoming?
Yes.
A week or so ago came out and said Obamacare is a train wreck waiting to happen. And that's because no one's prepared, no one has answers for the states. So it's awful hard to critique our governor when the governor's been trying to get questions answered and there's no answers to his questions.
Well, now
that doesn't prevent him from. I mean, he said right from the get-go, though. I'm just going to kind of press back a little bit. He said right from the get-go he wasn't taking the Medicaid expansion money. Like right off the jump, he said that wasn't going to happen. Mm-hmm. So why then did it take him another 5 to 6 months to actually have a plan with numbers that could be debated in conference? Yeah. That's my point. That's my point.
That I can't answer. I don't.
That particular answer I can answer. The advantage of me is being a doctor. And just before Christmas, he rolled out a proposal about how they're going to be able to fund. I can't remember what they call it, but the healthcare initiative.
Iowa Cares.
Yes.
Yeah.
How they're going to fund that, how they're going to change it.
And Healthy Iowa, actually.
Yes, that's what it is.
Well,
Healthy
that's
Iowa.
the new one, right?
The new one.
Yeah.
Well, but yeah,
Iowa Care will be going away in December.
We'll switch over to it.
Right.
But what essentially he did is, and I'm critical of this. I went on record. I was out speaking about this at a conference in January. And the issue that really what it is we're going to the old carve-outs. And if you remember the Clintons, that was their big thing. You're going to see a group of people for this much money, no matter how much care they require. That's what they're going to here in Iowa. Well, they rolled it out there with the support of Magellan, which runs Medicaid, and Wellmark, which is the two biggest providers here in Iowa, covering most of our lives. And essentially, he was floating that to see how doctors would push back. Well, a lot of doctors pushed back, so he's had to change the numbers a little bit. And plus, it was a thing where they were going to meet and release their final proposal here in June after the legislative session. And when he started to get pressure, I think then he moved up some preliminary numbers to go from there.
Well, what I find a little bit interesting, and this is a pure sort of political observation point, is you have Terry Branstad, who had never been known as a conservative's conservative in his first stint as governor. I think his record was fairly moderate. He was never this guy that would, he was never outspoken on a lot of the issues that much more conservative folks
social conservatives.
Well, I'm not even talking about that necessarily. I'm just talking conservatism in general. He wasn't someone who was really a big fiscal guy. He wasn't someone, and although he was, I'm just making that point. He was kind of a lukewarm conservative kind of governor back in the past. Then he comes out and he gets on the pedestal and says, we're not going to take Medicaid expansion. We're just not going to do it. I think in his mind, and this is pure speculation, he was thinking Obamacare is so unpopular and we have so many Republican governors that I'm going to have a lot of national support for this. We're going to have a coalition to push back, and nobody followed him. Frank, and reasonably, not because Medicaid is so much better than anything else, but these other states have different issues. They have different needs. They have different budgets, and they have different healthcare requirements. And I think the governor sort of maybe miscalculated that, went off on something, and now has had to back it up. And I'd feel free to let you guys pick that apart and completely tell me I'm full of it. But that's, as a neutral observer, that's what I kind of see as having happened.
Well, I just know with Medicaid expansion, we wouldn't be able to control costs. Once you take that bite on that hook, you're on it forever. It's awful hard for us to control anything by running it through a state program like Healthy Iowa. It's self-limiting in its expansion because we can't spend more than 99% than what we take in.
That's right.
If we just hook onto the federal program, we don't know where it's going. There's parts of the Obamacare, the high-risk patients, they set aside like $5 billion to cover them. They're already out of money from that. Senator Harry Reid's already saying we need more money for Obamacare, and we haven't even got it implemented yet.
The other thing is about, and this is because this is knowledge I have because of a doctor. In Iowa, we have 3 different things going for us. One, we deliver care very well because Iowans, for the most part, are very hardworking. Our doctors are very hardworking. 2, we are, whether you want to admit it or not, we watch out for each other here. Whether you're Christian or not, we're always helping our neighbor. So you have a lot of docs seeing a lot of people for free, which keeps the cost down. The third thing is, Iowa is one of the very few states that, if we decided to, would have a completely export economy. Tom would know this better than me, but essentially we're an independent state. We could be an independent nation truly if we wanted to because of our agricultural base, our financial base, our insurance base.
I would hate to see the tariff levels on everything that we don't do. I'm just saying.
Well, agreed. But Iowa is
cars, for example.
Yeah, but the point really is Iowa is a wealthy state.
We are now,
relatively speaking,
to the rest of the country.
Yes,
I think we're coming up on another break there, Doc.
Yeah. Well, we're going to be back. We're going to discuss amnesty. Right after the break, we're going to discuss, immigration, the proposal that's been placed in front of Congress, and amnesty, all these things together. We're with Representative Tom Shaw. We're glad he's joining us today. I'm sure you'll have some opinions on this as well. We'll be back right after the break. You're listening to Doc and Lefty on webcast1live.com.
Drug and alcohol addiction slowly steals a person's identity, tearing away pieces of their life little by little until one day it seems like the hope of a happy future is gone and there's no chance of getting it back. Here at St. Gregory Retreat Centers, we can assure you that there is hope. Our unique approach to recovery begins with the understanding that the dysfunction and damage caused by addiction can be overcome, not just dealt with. Don't let another day go by. Call St. Gregory today.
Drink, dance, party. Kitty's is the ultimate dance club in Des Moines. A huge dance floor with room to move, 3 bars to keep your drinks full, and kickin' DJs playing all your favorite dance music. At Kitty's, we've always got your birthday party planned with Birthday Fridays. That's right, when your birthday rolls around, there's only one place to go. Gather up your friends and head to Kitty's, where you drink free on the Friday of your birthday week. Find out more about Birthday Fridays at kittiesusa.com. Kitty's, all kinds of people, all kinds of music, all kinds of fun.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. This is Lefty with Doc and Lefty. We really want to thank our sponsors, our Bertrosian Associates. We want to thank them. They do a lot of good work for the community. I want to thank... I'll let you thank our other sponsor that you named. I don't know that I can do it.
Polk County GOP.
They wouldn't want my endorsement anyway, I don't think.
Well, but hey, a sponsor is a sponsor. That way, we would be happy to have the Democrats advertise on us as well, just to throw that out there.
Well, hey, once again, I don't know that the Iowa GOP is going to like hearing you say that, Doc. So,
Oh, you know what? They're pro business. They understand it's a business.
Okay.
They just offer a better product.
well, fair enough. So we're talking with Representative Shaw about a lot of different issues today. We've talked about some of the healthcare stuff and just like kind of moving beyond the parry and thrust of local politics to a little bit more of a national issue, which is immigration that is really at this point in the second term of President Obama seems to be the one thing that's probably going to get done. I mean, I'm just kind of looking at it. You know, guns failed. Gitmo is not, and I have some comment once we get into the foreign affairs stuff. I have some things to say about Guantanamo Bay. Immigration, though, seems to be the serious lift. And Representative Shaw, you know this as well as I do. It's because those national Republicans are scared to death that the minority vote's not going to be there for him in 2016. Am I wrong? Good Lord.
Holy smokes. Something bad's happening.
Rehabilitation going on somewhere,
we've got, hey, you know what that means? We got a couple of jobs down there.
That's right.
Whenever I hear construction noise, that means those guys are working. But am I wrong about that? Is that too a politically cynical statement to make?
That we're worried about the voter base?
The national Republicans... Yeah, that guy does not like this point I'm trying to say.
No.
That the national Republicans are concerned about the voting demographics, and that's what's leading the Republicans to jump on board this immigration issue.
That could be. I don't know what their motivation is. I'm a little upset that they're trying to jump on board with this. We need to secure our borders first and foremost. America is a welcoming nation, and I don't know of anyone, Republicans, how hardcore conservative they are, that doesn't believe that, you know, an honest man doing an honest day's work shouldn't get an honest day's pay. We're a welcoming nation. That's all we ask for. Let's secure those borders. It's a security problem with the drugs, with the Mexican drug cartels.
Yeah.
With construction noises, etc.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, I think that the administration would take issue with the idea. I mean, there's been a crackdown. President Obama has deported more folks than anybody else. That there's a net migration of workers back to Mexico, or there has been over the last couple of years. That the border is about as safe as it's ever going to get. And the statement about securing the border. I mean, I know that folks that's kind of what Border Patrol did for the first 4 years. And now I think the second 4 years, hey, we still got a lot of people that have already made it. What are we going to do about them? And you would agree with me that the what's the estimated 10 million or so or 15 million or so undocumented folks.
Yeah, it depends on who you talk to. I've seen some estimates of 25 million.
Yeah,
I could believe that. I could also believe 15 million.
Yeah, no one knows.
Don't know.
But you'd agree with me that something has to be done, and that if we get something that both parties can agree to, that is a net good for the country. I mean, that would bring a lot of folks out of the shadows. They'd start paying Social Security taxes. They would replenish the worker base in a lot of states that have been seeing an aging populations, Iowa, for example. And I know that you conservatives don't like to hear this, but provide much needed diversity to that's a joke. To otherwise more.
Wait, well, that's the thing about jokes; they have to be funny.
Well, that's a good point. I thought you guys were really thinking that I was going to stab you in the heart with that comment, but that they would it would be a net benefit to the country to normalize immigration. Would you agree with that, or do you have some issues with how it's going?
To me, the bottom line is it's a slap in the face to just grant them amnesty or a pathway to citizenship. It's a slap in the face to all of those immigrants that did it the right way, that stood in line overseas in their embassies, waited years, doing all the paperwork, had their health screenings, learned English, learned our form of government, and came here and assimilated to the American lifestyle, versus those that have just come here illegally and in some cases don't want to assimilate, want to maintain their own little communities. That's not what America is about. We are supposed to be a melting pot and not a tossed salad.
Well, but now I've been in trouble a lot on the immigration issue. I freely admit it. But I will tell you that the people that come here that I have met, these people want to put down roots. They also want to keep their heritage. And for me, I don't see a problem with that. You know, you have Chinatown in New York. You
Czech Village in Cedar Rapids.
Absolutely. So I don't see any problem with that. The problem I see is exactly what Tom pointed out. You have people that have broken our laws, and we're going to let them skate. And I think there should be some kind of penalty. I don't think tearing apart families and sending them back to wherever they went is the answer. But I do think that if you're here illegally, you don't get granted amnesty. There's not a path to citizenship, and you have to pay extra in taxes, 2%, 5%, whatever people can agree to make up for the services that they've received and haven't paid for. On average, it's not that illegal immigrants, have not paid taxes, but they don't pay taxes at the same rate people that are here legally do. And so those are my issues with this.
Well, a lot of the taxes that a lot of the undocumented folks or people that don't have an actual like a good Social Security number or anything like that, or even the folks that have a fraudulent Social Security number, they're still paying federal Social Security withholding in a manner of speaking. But a lot of these folks it's basically state withholding that's happening. And so those states so those particular states are recognizing a boon. But my Lord, I want to talk a little bit about at least the plan that I've heard and pitch it to you guys to see what you think. What I've heard is that the path to citizenship is getting at the back of the line. Now, first of all, we'd all agree that 6 years waiting for a green card when you're doing it the right way, that's ludicrous. 10 years, 12 years. Like, there are people that have been looking to get into this country for 15 years who've had family here for 15 years that haven't been able to do it because of bureaucracy. I can get 2 Republicans to agree that needs to be cleaned up. Would you agree with that?
Well,
the legal process itself is broken.
Yes, I would agree 100%. And keep in mind, and this is, it's rare I criticize Reagan, but this is not only a Reagan problem, but a Senator Grassley problem. These are the people that voted for this bill that, in essence, created this. They also, you have to keep in mind, they also granted amnesty at the time, and it didn't solve the problem. And in fact, it accelerated the problem.
Well, I mean, now you see it coming back with the benefit of hindsight, and they're saying get to the back of the line. You pay a fine for having broken the law. The issue that I think that really got in a lot of immigration activists' heads about this was tearing apart families. Like, the basic
absolutely.
reality of that, of a child who was born here, who has the right to stay here, being torn away from a parent. There was a news piece on Iowa Public Radio today, or about on the World, actually, Public Radio International last night, talking a little bit about this park in northern Mexico or in southern Texas, actually, where people are able to kind of meet. It's kind of in a neutral area, and it's not. There's a big fence, and it's just a horrible situation.
We're going to be back right after the break. The one thing I want to say real quick right before, this isn't a Brown issue. Amnesty and illegal immigration is not a Brown issue. It's an issue for everybody. These people essentially become slaves wherever they go in the world. We need to stop that. And I don't know a single conservative that's going to disagree with me or a single liberal that's going to disagree with me. You're listening to Doc and Lefty on webcast1live.com. We're with our good friend, Representative Tom Shaw. We'll be back right after this commercial break.
Lead, owner, and general manager of Service Legends. I brought along a couple of the home comfort heroes.
Hi, I'm Tammy Wells.
I am Nick Wondershad.
I am administrative mmanager.
I am the senior technician
from Service Legends.
It seems like every good thing, when you feel it to the bone that it's good, there's a lot of hard work put behind it. I don't think that you can fake it and have it turn out good.
You know, if we seem like, okay, that's just weird, it's just a furnace, why would you believe so deeply in a furnace? It's not just that, you know, we want to show the world that you can have good service.
Yeah, I mean, it's your home.
You know, it's built into our daily trainings, it's built into our culture, that we're gonna do whatever it takes to have each client say they love us, period.
That's why we spend all the hours in the training that we do. And if we guarantee it's gonna be a good experience for you, or else it's free, what type of work do you think we're gonna do?
There is a guarantee.
Temperature selection guarantee, fixed right or it's free guarantee, comfort guarantee, best value guarantee. All of these guarantees hold us accountable to ensuring that we exceed your expectations. And if for whatever reason we'd fail and we can't make it right, we guarantee all of those guarantees with a 100% money back guarantee.
I mean, if you don't think that your technician can fix it right, are you gonna say that to a client? No.
You don't have to worry about having a technician come to your house.
We drug test, background check all of our team members. We put safe people in your home. Each and every one of our service techs, 400 hours a year in training.
You tell it the minute they walk in the door. They know what they're doing, they've done their homework, and they actually truly care about what you want.
Because at the end of the day, you're the person that makes sure I have a job.
They're going to be listening. They're going to want to know what your challenges are. Then they're going to come and give you options, and you get to choose.
If I'm there to help and I make it easy and painless, I did my job right that day.
Well, when it comes to your comfort, safety, and your family, you know, you don't necessarily go buy the most expensive, but you get the most bang for your buck.
Oh, it's worth it, because there's a lot of people that will find a way to get it to work right now and then leave and then come back, charge you again, and the cycle just repeats itself. So when I'm out there looking at the furnace, I want to find why it failed today. How can we change the part today with something that you're not going to have to worry about? Is it worth changing the part today? I mean, you can put a lot of money into a furnace. I can fix parts all day. There's good job security in that for me, but is it the right thing for you?
I get a lot of the phone calls of after the technicians are there. They're just in awe. They're like, wow, you guys are great. I mean, I don't even know what to say. You guys are great. Everything you did was perfect. It was great.
Keep going though, I like this.
Just give us a try. I'm going to take all the risk.
I've got the time to make this right. I've got the support to make it right.
Just check us out.
And if you don't see the value in what we do,
I mean, fixed right or it's free or 100% money back.
enough said.
Hey, welcome back. This is Lefty bringing you back to Doc and Lefty. We're here on Webcast 1 live downtown in the Skywalk in beautiful Des Moines, Iowa. There's no place that I would rather be, especially on a day like today. I'm going to finish up our discussion with immigration. I want to give the last word. We kind of cut him off, so I want to give the last word about this immigration topic to our good friend Tom Shaw.
Well, thanks. It is something that needs to be solved. We can't have people out there in the shadows. It's a law enforcement issue. It's a basic human rights issue. Let's get it fixed. I still say we need to do more security at the border, and we do need to speed up the process. We need to be selecting the finest to ask them to immigrate in here. I don't think it's a fair measure to give amnesty to a whole bunch just because they were geographically located to the U.S. and could make it in easy. They're taking up jobs from immigrants from all around the world that would like to immigrate here. So,
absolutely.
All right, thank you very much. Now, the next topic that we were kind of discussing and what Doc and I have gone back and forth sporadically throughout the course of the show over the last few weeks is gambling in Iowa. Recently, Lynn County approved a gambling measure to open up a casino in Cedar Rapids, which really made the folks in Riverside mad, as you would,
absolutely.
think. And today, Warren County is having their ballot initiative, their ballot measure. It's going on right now down in Warren County. So if you live in Carlisle, Indianola, Norwalk, or any of those great places down there, you want to get out and vote on a $145 million casino. That would be, let's see, Event Center and Bowling Alley in Norwalk. It's basically close to Norwalk. It's going to be about 20 miles southwest of where Prairie Meadows now sits. That's made the Polk County Board, which regulates Prairie Meadows, and the Prairie Meadows folks really upset. So it seems like whenever there's a new casino, folks get mad.
Yeah, well, because the taxpayers supported Prairie Meadows for years and years.
They
years
still
and
do,
years.
Basically.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's run by the county commissioners run Prairie Meadows essentially, and so make sure that all stays local. I know that. So you're from Northwest Iowa. So Warren County is, it's not in your district, and it's not something that that you probably followed very closely, but it does speak to a larger trend over the last couple of years, and in my opinion, slightly coincidental to the anti-gambling crusader that Terry Branstad was back in the 80s and 90s. Mm-hmm. Not that he's really had much to say about this either way. I think that he's I don't think
staying out of it.
Yeah, he's not been inconsistent in his policy position. He still thinks it's wrong, but hey, we're going to let the kids have their cake and see what happens. What do you think about this trend? It's in every single county. We've got one in Osceola, we've got one in Des Moines, we've got one. We've got a couple.
We've
got
Sioux City.
Meskwaki up by you. We've got and I'm from the area.
Prairie Rose.
Prairie Rose. That's right.
The Winnebago tribe.
The Winnebago. Yep. Stone Lake.
I mean,
got a
all
casino.
up and down. Keokuk, Davenport. Davenport has several.
Diamond Joe's up at the border with Minnesota.
Absolutely.
Right. So, I mean, it's kind of blowing up in Iowa recently, and just get your thoughts about that.
Well, I'm just gambling in general with the casinos. I'm opposed to them. I just think they're a net loss to the state. They don't produce anything. And they make huge profits, and a lot of this money goes out of the state. The money that the people are losing at the gambling, they could be, buying products and services and expanding our economy in that manner. And I just hate to see this drain of Iowa's economy, being exported out.
See, and I tend to agree with that. And this is one of those things that you're going to see is a little bit of a weird thing, but I personally don't gamble personally. Like the extent of the gambling that I do is the odd poker game with some buddies on a weekend. Right. We'll have a beer, we'll play some poker and take each other's money. Very, very low stakes because we're all kind of poor. That sort of thing. I don't really like going to the casino very much. I don't like to do a lot of that because I don't feel like I get much out of it. Right. However. What do you say to the argument that look at what it's done for education, look at what it's done for employment overall, look at what it's done for just kind of the entertainment industry in Riverside at the casino down there, which has a really great convention center. I've been down there. That hotel is awesome. And Osceola and some of these more kind of rural areas. Do you see any merit to that?
Well, no, I just go back to. We could be keeping a lot more of that money in the state and using that money to develop rural areas. I think it's just a giant drain. I'm with you. As a matter of faith, I'm opposed to gambling, but the libertarian streak, little small streak in me, says let people do what they want to do, and so your home poker games and things like that, I don't have a problem with. But I just think that the big casinos is a net loss overall.
Since Prairie Meadows is open, Iowa's ranking in the scholarship race essentially has fallen from first place all the way down. I think we're 23rd, 25th, something like that.
So you're saying these education dollars
really
not really
haven't helped so far.
The lottery was the same way.
The lottery is the same way.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is every casino that's been opened in Iowa, no matter what county it is been in Iowa, they'll start the casino, they'll start to struggle, they'll hijack the county and the city it's in, say, we're going to move our operations unless you pay us off. And then, because you don't want to lose, what Prairie Meadows employs, 1,500 people or something ridiculous like that? Well, you don't want to lose 1,500 jobs out of your backyard, Well,
that would devastate Altoona.
Yeah, it would wipe it out. And so these people go, oh, well, yeah, we're going to take a bunch of money here and throw it at these other jobs. I think it's just ridiculous.
Well, that's what
I don't think that state money should ever be used for gambling. Now, I'm a Catholic. Bingo. That's gambling. But it needs to be localized. You can give gambling licenses, but the state should have a law that says the state or any government in Iowa cannot give money to those people.
Isn't that kind of okay? That's
all right. I gotta take the last word on that one.
I think that I agree for the most part. I just have other questions about it.
We just picked up another sponsor just while we were talking. That was a text message. Des Moines Anesthesia is now opening a pain clinic. So if you have chronic pain, because we all know the two big pain doctors here in town have gotten quite a bit of trouble. If you have pain, these are the people to call. Des Moines Anesthesia. They have an office here in Des Moines, and they have an office up in Fort Dodge. Des Moines, I think it's DMA.com, DesMoinesAnesthesia.com, and Dr. Kent Krosky is the person that's running this pain clinic. I also want to thank our second newest sponsor, Polk County GOP. As you know, they are very active in local politics here in Polk County, which is our largest county. They have a giant fundraiser coming up May 27th. and it has all kinds of politicals showing up. They have Scott Walker, I believe. They have Rand Paul showing up. They have our governor showing up, and a bunch of dignitaries, including, I know, Tom Shaw, and our other friend of the show, Brad Zahn. And these people are very easy to talk to. So if you want to show up, get a seat, get a table, and bring your friends. You can meet all these luminaries, and you have people right there that make your laws accessible to listening to you. Now, we're going to go on in our next segment onto foreign affairs. Now, generally, Lefty over here, that's not his forte. He likes local and state. Foreign affairs is my forte. This is what I cut my teeth on, a degree in political science with an emphasis in international law and organizations. And if you've been paying attention to the news at all, Syria is about ready to get really, really hot. America and the U.S. America and the Russians have been squaring off over who to support in Syria. The Americans, of course, want Assad out. And the Russians, of course, want Assad in. So Assad is basically playing the U.S. against Russia. Russia is importing all these weapons, not only directly to Assad, but also to Iran. Iran is running these upgraded weapons to Assad through Hezbollah, which they're allied with over there. And, of course, we all know how Hezbollah is, committed to the destruction of Israel. Israel drew its red line. America tried to draw its red line. And the problem is drawing a red line anywhere in the Middle East is going to get you into a lot of trouble. It doesn't matter what your intentions are. A UN observer said, we're pretty sure that the rebels released sarin gas and it wasn't Assad's troops. That does three things for America. Because we drew a line, said, if chemical weapons are used, we are going to respond militarily. Essentially, that's what was said. Well, now there's evidence that there's been, I think it was sarin being released. The UN has backtracked a little bit from that because, of course, America is the giant elephant in the room. But what has essentially happened is Assad now goes, aha. He solidifies his position with this. Obama has immediately said, no, we can't respond. So now America's in this pickle of what do we do? And honestly, what is this? Now, Blake Lefty brought up a pretty good point today is, Barack Obama is following basically all the protocols that have been established since Israel has been established, with different tweaks here and there. So my question to you is, Lefty, how are we going to extricate ourselves from this red line mess?
Well, first of all, I don't think that we should be in the mess in the first place, because when you go around talking about red lines and you talk about committing to things that you don't know anything about, that's why saying that this is what I don't understand what the president's trying to do. You talk about a red line, which means that you have a pretty clear idea of what's going to happen if the condition precedent happens, and then you backtrack and say, well, we need to get all the information. Now, the country's war weary, Representative Shaw. The country has no stomach to go into Syria. I hear a lot of people, both on the right and the left, saying, this sounds familiar. This sounds a lot like what happened with Iraq back in 2002, 2003, the run-up. We don't know what's happened yet. We know that this guy's bad. But we also know that Al-Qaeda is supporting the rebellion. We know that. We know that Al-Qaeda and Al-Qaeda affiliated groups are supporting the rebels. We know that the folks supporting Assad are a minority population that have been dominating, or a minority that have been dominating the majority population for years and years and years.
Much like Iraq.
And Lebanon.
Absolutely.
25 years ago. I guess my sense is, why do you say it? Why do you make that distinction? Red line. We don't need a red line.
It's awful difficult to draw a line in the sand when the sands are always shifting over there, and that's the problem. It's difficult to take a side when the sides keep changing almost daily. Who do you support? Who you don't support? I just know I support Israel and Israel's defense of itself, and all of this stuff seems to bleed over into Israel. My other question is if Syria is using these gases, where did they get their hands on them?
We gave them to them, actually.
How do you figure that?
A lot of these chemical weapons originated in the States and then were distributed out through the supply chain. I'm not saying that we were trading directly with them, but a lot of this stuff was distributed, and Russia got its hands on it in World War II. Russia, Syria are allies. And here's the thing. I don't think that Syria is necessarily playing us against the Russians. I feel like it's a more sectarian thing than that. I feel like the Assad government is using Russia to further its sectarian end, but I don't think that they want to see they care one whit whether the United States and Russia get in a turf war over Syria. First of all, the U.S. I don't think will play ball.
No, I don't. I agree.
We don't have enough of an interest there.
No, it'd be another proxy war.
Yeah, exactly. We do have I think there is a big problem with how entrenched Iran has become and how much of a power broker Iran has become. And when did that kind of really shift? I don't know. When Iraq fell.
Yeah.
And not to say, once again, I'm not defending Saddam Hussein at all, but to say that Iran hasn't benefited from that Sunni thug keeping the Shia from really consolidating their power in that area of the country, I think would be inaccurate statement.
Absolutely. And the worst two lessons from this latest red line thing. You saw what a president of the United States would have to do. I am critical of Obama for issuing the red line.
Yep.
Especially in the Middle East. That's just lunacy. And the second thing is you contrast that with the Israelis who said, if we even suspect any of this stuff is going to go to Hezbollah or it's going to even get close, we're going to bomb it out of existence. That was their red line. That's what they've done. They did it back in January. They've done it twice this time. They're going to continue to do it. Now, one of the things that I think Israel really understands is even though Assad, his dad, and him, who've ruled that country for 40 years, Israel understands that even though they get up there and yak, Syria is the only country that has surrounded them that has not attacked them.
Yep.
And so they understand that a lot of this is just rhetoric. They're much more afraid of the Americans supporting the rebel fighters than they are if America simply backs out and says, do what you want. The problem really is it's for lack of a better term, it's a peeing contest. I mean, for the superpowers over who's going to win that.
Well, for me, and I don't know if Tom, if you kind of echo this at all, but you have everyone knows like there's the good parts of the rebels and there's lots and lots of bad parts. We don't know who to send guns. We're not going to send guns to Al Qaeda. Or any of the affiliated groups. I think Al Nusra's in there too. It's just a bad situation. We don't know who to trust. And because we don't know who to trust, we don't know who to support. So Iran can come back to the Alawites and say, hey, you know what? We both hate Sunnis. They've got lots and lots of Al Qaeda Sunnis that the United States are not going to help. Right. Let's wipe them out. I mean, that seems to be a pretty fair assessment of it, at least from my perspective.
That could happen.
All right.
Yeah.
We're with Representative Tom Shaw. We're grateful to have him on the show again today. We will be back after a brief message from our sponsors. You're listening to Doc and Lefty on webcast1live.com. We're also on Sirius XM Radio. I keep forgetting to mention that.
Oh, we are?
Yeah.
Hey, fantastic.
So we'll be back right after the break.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Whether you're 10, 25, 50, 80 years old and beyond, everyone needs to live within their means. I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America. For almost a quarter of a century, we've helped people of all ages learn to manage their personal finances to benefit them far into the future. When problems arise, we've got the experience you need to make those debt problems go away. Got financial problems? Call Consumer Credit of America.
If Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of America was your personal webmaster, Tom would filter out all bad debt emails. If Tom was your mailman, you'd never get any debt reduction junk mail. If Tom Coates was a lineman, he'd block any phone calls offering to reduce your credit card debt.
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America, and we're still your best choice for credit counseling. We're local, we're accountable, and we can do more. You make the call when the time's right for you.
When it comes to competition, there really is none for Consumer Credit of America.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. This is Lefty. Sometimes I forget I've been saying this since October, and sometimes it doesn't roll off the tongue. Lefty, everybody.
Well, sometimes he forgets his name as well, and he calls himself Lefty.
Yeah, well, that's true. And you know what? It's been a long day, so that might have happened a couple times. I do apologize for that. Once again, I want to remind everybody that we are here every Tuesday, 6 to 7. I want to thank all the sponsors, not only our own sponsors that have been sponsoring the various segments of this show, but the sponsors that keep Webcast One live in business to provide us this great studio.
Absolutely.
To pay our wonderful producer Ryan's salary, the whole thing, and we really appreciate them. They're all local businesses.
Yep.
They contribute to the local economy, and that's what we really like to see here in Des Moines, Iowa.
I'm really excited, and I'd like to say again, thank you and welcome to our two new sponsors, Des Moines Anesthesia and their pain clinics, and Polk County GOP.
And this part of the show, we're going to wrap up on Syria a little bit here, and then everything else that's kind of going on internationally. This is my favorite part of the show when everybody here in the studio gets to bash congressional Republicans. Hey, what we need to do is I'm gonna get with our design team, design like a frame to put around this, because it's basically everyone here in the studio kind of bashing on some of the idiocy and short-sightedness. I'm not going to say their heart's probably in the wrong place. I don't know, but remember, these are my opinions only. I'll let my two friends speak for themselves. But we've had Lindsey Graham, John McCain, the usual suspects, basically come out very, very critical of the president, which doesn't bother you two, I'm sure, but talking about how we need to impose a no-fly zone. We need, now that the reports of this gas have leaked out, no pun intended. Certainly, that was an awful thing to say.
Yeah.
But the reports of this gas have come out that a no-fly zone, military action. John McCain said we need to get in there and support the rebels, who we've already established have some problematic issues with themselves.
Absolutely.
What do you guys think about this, Tom? Sorry, Tom.
No,
go to you first.
Well, I hesitate to speak. I'm not an authority on this, but
that's why it's called an opinion.
This is just my opinion from what I know of the situation, and I lack a lot of the details. But I would really hate to see us get involved in there with boots on the ground or any type of situation with that. I remember what happened in Beirut when our servicemen, right, when they got basically in the middle of a three-way firefight, and we don't need to place troops into a situation like that. So I would just say, exercise extreme caution before we commit anyone like that.
Well, and the other thing is the sarin gas, you can trace it wherever you want, but keep in mind the Syrian rebels have captured several large ammo depots of Assad's. They could have been sitting in there. There's been rumors and a lot of not concrete proof, but enough proof that, you get circumstantial evidence hanging by that the weapons of mass destruction, the poison gas that was leveled against the Kurds, when America finally decided to get into Iraq for the second time, the Syrians bought that, right? You have to keep in mind, this entire region is a big, giant mess.
Yep.
AQ Khan, I've talked several times about that on the show before our recent incarnation. Look him up on Wikipedia. It kind of goes over a little bit about his history. The Syrians are fighting for what they want. This is the ramifications of the Arab Spring. And that is, if you look at all the countries that have gone under, they're all secular nations. Libya, despite being run by a Muslim, was a secular nation. If you look at Syria, a secular nation. If you look at Egypt, a secular nation.
All run by thugs, too. So
run by thugs, but still secular. So you have these people who are going, we want Sharia law. We want to bring about the domination of Islam as it's written forth in the Quran, or their version of the Quran. So that's essentially what's going on here. We can't afford to be backing rebels. We can't afford to be backing people that are going to be using poison gas. Dave Funk has said something several times. You're measured you're considered by your character by the company of the people you keep. And if we keep company with people that use poison gas, then we should be ashamed of ourselves. We don't need boots on the ground. We don't need any of that. The problem is going to be, and the Muslims know this, we don't have the stomach for killing our children overseas in a fight that doesn't involve us.
Well, and I want to put this in the kind of a little bit a brief historical context here. This is now the third of the major minority-driven sectarian fights that we've seen in this region. The first one being in Lebanon. That was a civil war between the Christians and the Muslims that lasted about 15 years because the Christian minority, the Islamic majority got sick of the Christian minority and they had it out for 15 years. Iraq, Sunni minority dominating a Shia majority population in that country. We come in, we take away the strongman thug that was keeping it all at bay. No, at the expense of the Kurds, I'll grant you, but he was keeping the peace between the two sides, and we see a 10-year civil war between those two sectarian populations because when you take away that minority leading faction, whether it be the Christians in Lebanon, the Sunnis in Iraq, or the Alawites in Syria, and turn things over to the majority, the minority faction will fight like dogs, basically, or a cornered badger, because they know that if they lose, they're done. Absolutely. And that's the anthill that folks like John McCain are trying to get us to kick, and it's just foolhardy. It's absolutely foolhardy.
Well, and this goes back even further. This goes back to kicking out the Shah of Afghanistan and having that crumble. It goes back to kicking out the Shah of Iran. Mm-hmm. All right. All these are secular states. The one thing I want to point out about Lebanon, and this is going to illustrate exactly how twisted everything is there. The person that ultimately was responsible and coordinated the attacks on our Marines in Lebanon turns out to be a Christian commander over there. That's been well documented.
Yep.
I knew it because this happened way back when Reagan was in power. I happened to be in Washington, D.C. a little bit after that and got to see some documents that proved that. And everybody was absolutely astonished, right? It's now been made public, so I don't have to, keep my mouth shut about it. But the bottom line is that's what happened. That's how twisted this whole thing is over there.
The fear is, for me, is that if we get in bed with any one of these factions over there, you're going to see a black and white picture 25 years from now of Chuck Hagel shaking hands with the next Saddam Hussein. That's what's going to happen. It's absolutely guaranteed to happen.
I'm not sure it's guaranteed, but if I was a betting man, I'd be betting with you.
Well, we're coming to the end of the show, but I wanted to have the representative kind of talk about, so what are your plans? I mean, you're almost done. We're going to get back to these things. You're almost finished. You're almost done, ready to go. What are your plans once you get done with the break, going back to Lorenz, taking care of the family?
I go back to Lorenz. I go back to my job, full-time police officer. So looking forward to getting back to small-town Iowa again and getting on with a normal life.
I gotta wonder, do you think that all the criminals up there in Lorenz are counting the days down their hope there? Maybe that's what's been the source of the gridlock. We're gonna keep the mice want to play somewhere. We're gonna keep the cat away as long as we can.
Absolutely.
No, we've got quite capable chief and another officer up there in my absence, so I don't think that's it. But
all right,
I just want to end up with on the budgets. I know we kind of started out that you thought the 3% was too high. I do have to say. I personally, myself, along with many of the other members of the caucus, came to an agreement that there was definitely some policy that we wanted to see changed this year, some of them involving freedom and liberty. And we told leadership, if you need to spend a little bit more money, I will always spend more money in order to get some liberty and some freedom. So,
absolutely. But my dad always said this: no cash, no justice. Number one. Number two, no cash, no freedom. Mm-hmm. Right. So the more cash government takes from me, I view it as less freedom I have.
True. But I just think we're sitting in a unique position here that we can get some things. So, although myself and there's many others think we're still spending too much, I am proud of the leadership, and they're negotiating
Great.
right now.
Great. Now I'm going to close out the show a little bit here. Want to thank our new sponsors, the Polk County GOP and Des Moines Anesthesia's pain clinics. Also want to thank everybody who's tuned in, all of our new listeners. Want to put a shout out to Tim. Thanks for the text. Tim thinks we're absolutely correct on Syria. Don't forget,
he's really smart.
Yeah, he is. Don't forget, Youth Homes of Mid-America has a fundraiser at Famous Dave's on May 21st. They get 10% of the receipts. So show up at Famous Dave's, eat there, breakfast, lunch, dinner.
If
Don't
you're not
ever
from
leave.
the area, where's Famous Dave's?
Up on Merle Hay Road, just south of the Ford dealership up there. And I want to thank all of our listeners.
Hey, well, that's a great. I didn't know that you're going to toss it back to me.
Sorry.
Caught flat-footed, but everybody, thanks a lot for listening. We really do appreciate the very kind support. Thanks again to our special guest, our friend of the show, Tom Shaw, and get up to that fundraiser on May 21st. That'll be a really great time. On behalf of Doc and the representative, this is Lefty, and thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.
Love these guys. Get over here. Love both of them.